Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here at Miami at Community News. This is Johnny Farias, and again, we are bringing to you subjects and issues that are important to our community. And like always, we like to bring in experts in their field to discuss so that we make aware our audience. Today, I have the pleasure of having a contractor slash developer, Edgewater Construction, Ulysses Vazquez. Ulysses, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Johnny.
That's good. I'm glad you're here, and I've known you for a while now.
Yes, we have.
The audience knows I am an electrician because a lot of my slogans was I'm an electrician, not a politician, so they already know who I am. But I've known you for a long time, and I want you to tell my audience, a little bit about you and what got you into the contracting business.
So, been in construction since 1991. I used to be an insurance adjuster, and I started to like construction when I would see things being fixed, and decided that something that I wanted to look into, and got involved in construction since 1991. My current company, I opened it with my wife in 1999, and it's still operating. And I love building.
Okay. You said your wife. How long you been married?
31 years.
31 years. Wow. I'm 33, so
I'm catching up.
You are. And children?
I have two sons. My oldest works with me. His name is Michael, and my youngest is applying for law school right now.
Oh, wow.
His name is Matthew.
What law school?
He doesn't know yet. He's going to apply to several schools and see where he lands.
Okay. Well, my oldest just graduated from St. Thomas.
He's looking at St. Thomas. That is one of the schools he is looking at.
Great school.
So,
Great school.
Yes, we're all excited for him.
That's it. Well, congratulations. I'm glad. And again, thank you. And we're here today because of the construction and housing industry, how is it getting affected. How did COVID affect you?
COVID at the beginning did not affect us as we thought, and I guess I didn't see the writing on the walls. But as time progressed and things got tougher and tougher, our company has suffered tremendously because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and how it affected us was our materials just started to skyrocket, and we were under contract on several large projects that we had no rights under contract to request any additional funding for material escalation, and we've been trying to weather it out, and it's affected us tremendously. Based on my accountant's analysis, we've lost in the last 2 years nearly $6 million.
That's a lot of money to lose.
Yes, it is.
So just so the viewers understand, you had jobs already that you were on, and they were under contract. And during the contract, the material escalation went up. And of course, there's no recourse on it for you because you're already on a contract. There was no way back or nothing where you could have went back and said, look, because of the escalation, it can be more. That's not allowed, correct?
It's not. Most contracts on large scale projects and government projects have what's called escalation clause, and that we don't have the right to go back and say, this is costing me X amount more and pay the difference. And I tried, and everybody was very sympathetic, but they have a business to run. They have their own contracts. They have their own obligations, and they did not have the ability to fund additional monies to help us.
Okay. So how are you weathering it, or have you lost contracts?
Yes, we've lost some contracts. There were some projects that we could not finish. It's hurt us tremendously. We've had layoffs. We've had to lay off a substantial amount of people that work for us, and we're trying to get along and just try to get back on our feet. We've got some smaller jobs that we're working on, and we're rebuilding the company again.
Okay. I know we have talked, we kind of touched the subject on programs that might help. Have you, and I see you bring a lot of studies and paperwork on things that you've looked up. What are you looking for?
Well, I'm no expert, and in my humble opinion, when you look at everything that's happened, for example, this is from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. On May of 2020, nearly 60 million people were laid off. Most of these were factories, where you have large amounts of people, I guess, congregating, which they didn't want due to the pandemic, and factories, all sorts of factories were shutting down. And a lot of those were manufacturers that manufacture construction material products. You're not manufacturing construction products, but at the same time, we were requested, and I don't want to say demanded, but we were told we have to continue working.
Right.
You know, all the construction sites in Dade County, Broward County, West Palm continued open. During, they were shut down for a very short time, maybe a week or so, and then get back to work. Everything's fine. Wear a mask and go back to work.
I'm a witness to that.
So we had to go back to work. We're under contract. We've got obligations. So, we're going back to work. And surely, but all the materials started to get scarcer and scarcer and scarcer. And with that, more expensive, more expensive, more expensive. And there was no other way of getting it done. We've had to personally, my wife and I poured our life savings back into the company. And it's, again, to try to get through this hump, but the hump got bigger and bigger and bigger. Right. And we weren't able to, and there were several projects we could not finish.
Could you give us an example as the escalation of price, like what a 2x4 cost or?
So we were doing a lot of heavy drywall, large scale drywall projects. And we had estimated our materials based on what they were costing us and what our labor, what our suppliers were going to sell them to us at. I'll give you an idea. A 3 5/8 stud, 10 feet, was costing us about $3.50. We ended up paying $10 for the same piece of material.
Wow.
So, and you're not buying 10 of them or 20 of them. You're buying tens of thousands of these things. So it adds up very, very quickly.
And that can also be a cause of the high prices of homes and commercial properties too, because of that.
I don't know if I can answer that. So I don't want to mislead anybody. I don't, I could only assume
I understand
that the builders were paying more, so they started to increase. If condos cost more, they weren't really costing them more because we couldn't charge them more. But I think it's also been supply and demand, and then that was the other thing, that the material suppliers kept on raising prices, and we kept on having to buy. So again,
and I truly understand too, because I'm an electrical contractor, and the same thing has happened to us. What wire cost back then is 3-4 times the amount now, and I've also had to stop on some projects because we just couldn't do it. It'd be a heavy loss, but I understand. And now through this process, have you've tried to reach out to some elected officials to try to see whether there's programs to help or something that can help not only you but the industry in general?
Yes. Actually, you and I have tried to reach out to
the Congresswoman.
Congresswoman Salazar. We've spoken to several of her staff members, and it hasn't gone the way I wanted it to go. I think it's the political atmosphere right now, and I'm no politician or a politician expert, but I think the atmosphere right now in this country is not beneficial for them to create anything to help us, which obviously bothers me.
Right.
Because I didn't create COVID. None of the contractors that have suffered through this, and many contractors don't exist anymore today.
Yeah.
I've looked it up, and many contractors since COVID to now are gone. And all the trades. This is not just one or two trades. Electricians, plumbers, civil contractors, that their materials just skyrocketed and they just couldn't do it anymore. The bankruptcy courts can show you how many contractors have filed for bankruptcy, and it's a large amount of contractors that have had to file either Chapter 7 or Chapter 11. to be able to, because they just couldn't handle it anymore. They just couldn't.
Right.
They couldn't sustain the losses anymore.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Another big factor was in connection with the material escalation is now COVID creates a supply chain issue. So not only do you not have the material, you don't have whatever material is available is very difficult to get.
Right.
Because the supply chain is choked up, and it's got multiple reasons. First, not enough drivers. New trucks not being available because parts are not there for them to be finished to be built. Yep. I've done a little bit of research on that, and it's several things that created the supply issue.
And one of the things I can tell you is, like, in the electrical field, we have jobs waiting months because of a meter can, because they're just not available. And sometimes when they tell us, 6 months, 8 months, you got to wait, and that stops jobs from opening up.
Yes.
Business can't open. If business can't open, they can't hire. That's less jobs available at the time. So yeah, it's a chain.
It's throughout.
Domino effect. Yes.
In your particular field, I know for a fact that a lot of parts are made in Mexico. A lot of your D-squares in Mexico and a couple of other large manufacturers of electrical components are out of Mexico, which is very convenient. It's great. But you can't get it from Mexico to the U.S. because there's now the trucks are not available.
Right.
The transportation is just not there. Another big factor is that not only now do we have a lack of material and a lack of other goods, foods, daily necessities, is that more people are coming to the U.S. The U.S. continues to grow.
Right.
Legally and illegally, and that's another topic, I guess. But so now you've got more people that need goods, and the goods are not here. That's another part of this whole supply chain issue that this country has been suffering.
Yes.
So it's not just one thing. If it was just one thing, I think it'd be easy to fix. But going back to what's going on in the construction industry, I truly believe that the government has to create a program to help contractors that have employed hundreds of people and want to stay in business, and due to nothing they did, are suffering today. And as I said earlier, may not even be in business anymore.
I agree with you, and I just want to mention, we the government has had helped others. Like, for instance, the banking industry when it all fell apart, the car industry when they gave them millions of dollars because of the car situation. When we have a freeze or a hurricane, the agricultural industry gets help.
Yes.
And I think it's right that maybe they should help the construction industry. I mean, I don't see why it couldn't be done.
Well, I guess talking to us is singing to the choir. But, what crosses my mind is all those hospitals, all those places that people congregate, who builds them? Contractors build them. So if this continues to snowball, who's going to be building all these things? They pass a $1.3 trillion infrastructure bill. If there's no contractors, who's going to fix the roads? Who's going to build the roads? Something has to be done. And I had a plan, and I'm, again, no politician. I'm not an economic expert. But one of the things that I had talking to Salazar's office was, is there a possibility to move some of that money from the infrastructure? Because I understand that it'd be almost impossible now to pass any bill to help, to do financial support. But can we use some of the money that's already been allocated? Can we not give somebody $10 billion and maybe just give them $9 billion? I don't know. I'm not an expert, as I said. But in my humble thoughts, I just thought something could be done for all the contractors. And this is not a Miami thing. It's not a Florida thing. This is a United States issue. This is throughout the country. There are contractors literally closing doors because they just cannot afford to keep them open anymore because their materials have gone 300 and 400%.
I mean, and I'm pretty sure the viewers have gone to Home Depot too, and you can't ever find nothing at Home Depot anymore. And if you do, you got to shop at 3 different Home Depots to get what you want. Supply stores. I mean, and even I could tell you, I think my daughter had to take a car for service, and they told her they couldn't do it because they didn't have the part to replace, so she had to come back.
Yep.
So it's in this material, the escalation, the demand. It's in every faucet that we're living right now. So,
Yes,
yeah.
it is. Yes, it is.
So I got a question. So if you, let's say you were Congressman Ulysses Vazquez, and I came to you, what would you do? What would be your one thing to help this construction industry? What would you do?
I would try to create some type of program similar to what they did with PPP, some type of loan, and with certain criterias that the money is specifically used to rebuild the company, to build the company back up, and then create some kind of forgiveness program for it. If people don't want to do that, it becomes a loan and you have to repay it. I would limit, and again, I'm no expert, these are just my humble thoughts. I would limit the amount of money that you can apply for to a certain amount. If larger companies need more money, because there are companies out there that are 100 times bigger, and they need to say, hey, you've limited X amount, we really need so much. The balance, you can lend it to them at a very low interest rate.
Right.
That interest rate creates funding to help repay some of this money that you're going to help contractors with. So there's different ways. And look, there's a lot of smart people in Washington that I'm sure could create some kind of program. But as we were told, there seems to be no appetite for this.
That is what we were told.
And that was sad, because I guess there was an appetite for people to go out of business. And it's sad. It's sad because these are companies that produce a lot of work, produce a lot of employment opportunities. I know you've trained young people, you've hired very young people, and you've trained them to be electricians. We've hired very young people, and we've taught them the ropes. I'm very proud to say that some of the people who work for me have gone on and opened their own businesses and are very successful. And I think that's what this country's about. It's about us helping each other and building each other up, not tearing us down.
I agree. One of the things that we didn't mention, and now that I think about it, with a lot of these construction businesses closing, and whether electrical, plumbing, mechanical, that also puts strain on the workforce. Then we don't have enough electricians now. We don't have enough plumbers now. I mean, you try to go out there and they're not there.
They're not there.
So this just makes it even harder if small mom and pop places like Edgewater Construction has to shut their doors.
Yeah. Smaller companies are the ones that, to me, are the backbone of the large companies. And we need the large companies too, don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But, and I think the whole country is based on small business owners. And in the construction industry, it's a huge market. It's huge. And being smaller companies, we hire sometimes the guys that nobody wants, and we help them, we mentor them, we train them. And in my case, many have worked out great. I've had great people that came with very little knowledge. We took them under our wing, and they were eager to learn, eager to create a trade for themselves, and it's been very successful for us. And to not be able to employ those people anymore, to me, it's hard.
It is. And you hear this a lot, especially during election times, about small businesses are the backbone. But what people don't realize is that small businesses are more than just the backbone of a community. For us, it's our life savings, because we put all our money in all our eggs in this one basket. So if that business after 20 years goes down, we lose everything.
Yes.
And that's what a lot of the politicians don't understand about small businesses. When we reach out to help us in a crisis, because this is a crisis, with the materials and not enough labor out there to man the companies. When we reach out, they say, yeah, we want to help small business, but they don't understand that it's, to us, the small business, it's our life. This is what we're going to retire on. This is what we put everything in. And like you said, you started this with your wife, and your wife still at it.
Yes, we are.
If something happens, it's not just you. It isn't like your wife does something else. This is you two together. I don't even have a word for it. So small business is more than just the backbone. Small business is our life savings. It's where we work. It's what we depend on. The end of the day, that once we retire and once we
Right.
hang our gloves up, that we can be comfortable. So
Correct.
it's a lot more,
Yes.
and that's what people don't understand.
They don't.
Me and you do, because we're there, and a lot of viewers that have the businesses, they understand that, But yeah. So what is your next step? Because I know you're not giving up. I've known you.
I'm not going to give
known
up.
you long enough for this.
I'm going to keep knocking on doors.
So what's your next step?
I'm reaching out to some other politicians. I'm writing letters, and I'm starting them to send to different, congressmen, senators, and I'm going to keep knocking until somebody opens the door.
And being in politics myself, I can tell you that sometimes, and like you said, there's not a political appetite for it, but a lot of these things can be done, with just a few people that want to do it. You gotta have the political will to do it, And yes, like you said, you're not asking them to go back and do another budget, but from the stimulus act that came out, the money that was approved, the infrastructure bill.
Correct.
Okay, from there, take some money out for these programs, because not everything, and I'm pretty sure not everything in that
It's
money
not.
is line itemed.
Again, I'm no expert, but I looked at it, and there are things in there that have nothing to do with infrastructure. So yeah, I think there's room in there to move some of that money around. And again, no expert, not a legislative expert. I don't know the laws. These are just my humble opinions, and I truly believe that with all that brain power in Washington, I'm sure something could be done.
No, I'm pretty sure too. And you had mentioned about not being an expert, but look, because of ideas. Ideas start from regular people like us, that are working out there. The ones that we have our feet on the ground. That's where ideas have to start. And not every politician is a contractor or is a lawyer. So they're not an expert in their field either. They depend on people like us to bring them the ideas. So, for all the viewers out there, that if you know some of these Congress people, let them know what's going on. Tell them Ulysses is trying to reach out, and not only Ulysses Vazquez or Edgewater, but a lot of contractors. Because like you said, a few. I know a few too that have lost. I know that. I can't remember. Tri-City Electric is one that had to file bankruptcy too because of that, and they are one of the biggest contractors here in Florida. I don't know which one they did, but I know that they had to restructure because of this, and so something's got to be done. I mean, I think we should also go locally, because maybe there could be some local programs that can be done.
I've briefly looked at that, and I haven't found anything. I know there may be something, and that's the other thing. It's not easy to looking for this.
No.
There's actually companies I discovered. There are companies that specifically you can hire to help you find these things, and I'm reaching out to some of the companies that I've been looking into that actually look for money for nonprofits and for other entities. Right. I've gone onto the government's website looking for grants. There's nothing available. There's no loans available. You can do something through the SBA, but it's got to go through a bank, and you're looking at 7, 8, 9%. You can't pay that kind of interest rate on money that you lost.
Especially at these times.
Yes. So, I think something has to be done. The government has to step in and do something for us. Because if it was just one or two guys, I understand. It's not. It's thousands of companies that are suffering throughout this country that, again, they're the backbone of all those buildings that we see being built.
Well, and you think that with this infrastructure bill, construction is infrastructure. You think
Correct.
We'd be in there, and I believe that there's promises of fixing bridges and so on. So somewhere around there, there's got to be some money.
I agree
with you. We got to find something. We have to, keep knocking on doors, and I'm going to be there with you too. Also, to knock on those doors and make those phone calls because, like you said, this is something that's affecting everybody, not just one or two people.
Remember what the Bible says: knock, and ye shall open. And it says, ask.
Yeah.
And I'm asking. Ask. So I'm going to continue to ask until I get an answer.
There we go. And I've known you long enough that I know you will. You don't stay in business for over 30 years by not making sure that you're consistent in things. So I applaud you on that. I applaud you and your family. If we have a congressman listening to us now, and somebody in Washington, I want you to say something to him.
I like for somebody to give me 5 minutes of their time, which is what I wanted from different politicians. To give me 5 minutes, and I'll show you. I'll show you real documentation of what I started to pay and what I ended up paying for things. I can show you my financials, and I show you that this is a real loss. This is not. And it's material. It's clear as day that it was material costs that just skyrocketed, and it's what caused us to be in this situation. That's all I want. And then they can do some research and see who else is out there in my position. I reached out to a few people that have also gone through this, and they would be willing to sit down with politicians and show them, look, these have been my losses. AC contractors, electrical contractors that were paying $5 for something, ended up paying $15 for the same item.
Right.
You can't withstand that.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Ulysses, it was great talking to you. If you want to go over some of these,
it's just it's just everything that we've been talking about, and I got everything from government websites of what happened with the supply chain, and it all goes back to every single one article here goes back to COVID.
Okay, so you're doing your research, I see.
And there's more. I continue to read every day and educate myself, but supply chains. If you read a lot of these experts, they're talking about it all goes back to COVID-19.
Okay. Well, viewers, you heard Ulysses. If he just wants 5 minutes of our elected officials' time, so you can discuss this, and I think you should be able to get it. Okay. I'm gonna try to make sure that you get that also.
Good.
Okay. Viewers, thank you very much. Hope you guys have a great 4th of July. It's coming up. Stay safe. And my next segment of Johnny Talk, we'll be bringing in some women business owners in the food restaurant chain and discuss on how that's going. So thank you again, everybody. Johnny Farias, and thank you for your time.